It is I, the God among men, the mint pick supreme. Only I may speak. That's a joke, by the way. You guys have been pretty funny, honestly, I gotta say. I'll talk more about that later as well in the video. I normally don't care too much about what random people say in the comments because, I mean, if you're a content creator, you can't care about everything or you'll go crazy. And even here, I'm not too broken up about it, but I want to clear some things up and also fix a mistake that I made. I know, even God himself can make a mistake. An apology, if you will, for something that I said, and I definitely made a mistake, at least one, maybe more. Yes, I know, even the honored one, above all, can still make mistakes. I basically get insulted all day long, even on stream anyways, and YouTube comments say some of the most vile stuff I've ever seen on the internet, but at least usually most of the good criticism floats to the top. But this was a little bit of an exception. I decided I would actually look through most of it. I also removed the previous video because people were kind of just missing the point for the most part and riding on a hate train, spamming out the actual good criticism, and also just being kind of nasty on the wrong video. So they can instead let out all their anger on this video at the end if they wish. I also wanted to make this a few days ago, but I didn't really have time until now. Well, no time like the present, right? I'm not here to make excuses, but I want to lay everything out. I don't care if you love me or you hate me, I just want to make everything clear. I had to write my thoughts down as well instead of just winging it this time so you don't mistake my words too much either, or I don't make any mistakes rather. It's very different to do a video than a random stream since you actually choose what goes out there and exactly how people perceive you. If you can watch a literal terrorist backstory with an eye patch and end up understanding her backstory and even loving her, then surely you can listen to my simple explanation here in this video, right? No, but seriously, let's just clear up everything, shall we? Let's go from the top. Let's also preface that I generally play for the gameplay with most of these gacha games, as probably around 80% of the reason I play these games, minimum. Let's start with the story rating video. I gave it a 7 out of 10. A grave crime, I know. For the record, I actually like 2.4 a lot more. However, the scale I used was 5 out of 10 is average or mid, as most people would call it, 6 is aight, 7 is good, 8 is great, 9 is amazing, and 10 is a masterpiece, which I believe I did say before and I prefaced. But people were really not happy about that. Many people said I didn't pay enough attention or I'm wrong about things, etc. So let's look at this in two different ways. One is that I understood everything, and one is where I missed some of the information. In either case, I believe my opinion is as valid as anyone else's, by the way, even if many don't really want to accept that. So in the instance that I did understand everything, then people are just being upset for no reason over my rating, they just don't like it. And in the instance where I missed some information, well, it still would kind of be the same way either way, right? It's still how I felt and people are just upset over that. Now, realistically, it's actually a little bit closer to the middle of those. I understand the story, but I missed some of the smaller details, especially in the middle when Furlova was talking, such as exactly how her sonorosphere worked. I saw some people mad saying, well, at the end, she's not actually dead. She's in the sonorosphere and other stuff. And it's like, okay, yeah, I get that. But she's, for all intents and purposes, essentially dead and in like a afterworld sphere for right now where consciousness is, but that doesn't really matter too much. I later looked back over the story a bit after all the backlash, and I'm gonna be real, I still give it a 7 out of 10. I didn't miss enough key information for me to truly feel differently. And realistically, a 7 out of 10 is not that bad. I said it was good, right? I just don't really see how that's too much of a problem. Can you tell me exactly what Galadriel said to Frodo in Lord of the Rings? Or tell me exactly what Erwin said to the recruit scouts before the final charge in Attack on Titan Season 3 word for word? I mean, probably not, but you understand the gist of what it conveyed, right? And those are amazing stories anyways. Well, the parts I missed felt like that to me, not important enough to really change my feelings in the story or shift how I felt. I just wasn't as into it as I was for 2.4, which I enjoyed the concept a lot more than this one. Me fully understanding a sonorosphere doesn't suddenly bring it up to an 8 for me. I'm sorry, it's just most of the details I missed didn't really change anything. I still felt the moments were emotional, and I experienced Frolova's story as Rover. At one point I said some of it was a bit confusing. A lot of people didn't like that. But what I was referring to, which I should have been more specific on, is Frolova's language, which is very poetic, flowery, and overly wordy, which obfuscated simple things in a veil that would normally only take the briefest moment to understand, for me at least, right? I'm not saying that everything she said was impossible for me to comprehend, it's more just she essentially made it harder to understand every part of the story when she's speaking in such a more roundabout way. Does it make the entire story too complex? No, but it definitely didn't make it easier. It's fine to disagree, but that's how I felt. Many were also upset I talked over the story or would make jokes or look away while listening. If you want someone to sit there and just take it all in, only gasping at things, you came to the wrong place, bro. We aren't watching Citizen Kane. It's a live stream where I talk a lot. I'm constantly talking to chat as well, even during some of the most hype things I've seen in stories. Then there are those that I say I lock in more when I'm playing Limbus' story. Limbus Company, right? Yeah, you're totally right. But that's because I literally have to voice all of the characters myself because they have no English dub. So I have to concentrate the entire time, right? And for me, I play Wuthering Waves for the gameplay. I play Limbus Company for the story. It's a little bit different, right? Does that make my thoughts about Wuthering Waves' story invalid? No, it's as valid as anybody else's, right? Opinions don't really matter, but they're all valid to some extent, right? I've never said I'm a professional story reviewer. I'm just a guy who plays the game, and it's unreasonable to be upset because I didn't like your story as much as you did. Now, I overall usually rate gacha stories lower because, I mean, let's be honest, most gacha stories are not really that good. The fact that I'm even reading Wuthering Waves' story is honestly an exception because most gacha stories I don't read at all. Everybody tells me that every single gacha story is good. If you're a fan of the game, most people will say that the story is good. I've heard this about so many different gachas. And every time I'm usually just disappointed. I actually put in a little bit of extra effort to read the Wuthering Waves story because I want to try enjoying the story and because I want to see what's happening. So I'm already kind of going out of my way to do something I normally wouldn't do with a gacha, to be honest. There's plenty of renowned series I also don't enjoy, and plenty of junky stories that I like for various reasons. I'm not some sort of professional reviewer. I'm not like Ebert or something like that. I have no issue with people who thought the rating should be higher. Sure, that's fine. Everyone has their own opinion on that. But I do have an issue with a lot of the people who I would consider bad actors who were basically just making things up as to why I gave it that rating. Such as having an agenda against the game, really? Or because I like Hoyoverse? Okay. Or I didn't understand a single thing about the story. I mean, maybe they're just trying to exaggerate a bit, but still, it was surprising when people said, like, you didn't understand anything. Like, really? Also, it's a bit funny that the first story in this game that has any real moral dilemma or discussion leads into probably the most arguments in this game, because the first time Rover wasn't some infallible god punishing pure evil. There was a little bit more to it, right? Now, people were being so upset over my rating genuinely confused me because I said it was good and I enjoyed it. Hell, it doesn't even really make sense for people to be upset where some were just making up lies. Imagine you told someone outside of the gacha sphere, so this guy gave this really good story a 7 out of 10 and he didn't understand it. He didn't even try. Would the person even really care that much? I mean, it's not really that big of a deal, honestly. But now we can move on to what really pissed people off. Let's talk about this. But let's start from the top, a couple months ago, actually. So for a long time now, I've had so many people say that I'm a curlbot and a Hoyo shill. These are terms everyone loves to throw around, of course, but it's kind of hilarious because I don't even play any Hoyo games and I've basically shit-talked them for the last 4 years. I've been trash-talking them longer than some people even been playing some of these games. Hell, I'm an OG hater. I'm shocked that I'm not blacklisted yet, since in the game Epic 7, I shit-talk Smilegate so hard and often that at one point they actually asked if I could change my thumbnail on my video because I had the CEO of the company in a trash can on fire. And I've basically said crazier things about Hoyoverse previously on stream as well. But I committed the terrible crime of criticizing Wuthering Waves in any way. It definitely came to a head when I said Wuthering Waves night market was ass. And I still believe that's true. And I said Honkai Star Rail's mileage for Archer's Light Cone was fine, like, I don't know, months later. For those who watch me, they understand why I said this, but many people obviously don't watch me on the regular or at all. But it was just a cut part of my VOD while I watched a live stream and my opinion and thought at the time, right? It's because I hold the two games to completely different standards. Now here's an example. A piece of shit PT Cruiser going 100 miles an hour top speed is fine, but to a brand new race car, that's trash to only go 100 miles an hour. So I don't really care what Honkai Star Rail does because it's a lost cause to me and I don't even play it or like it anymore. Why do I care how bad it gets? The players accepted slop and they shall receive. In the moment I talked about it and I said it's fine, I hold Wuthering Waves to a higher standard because I like the game. Because if it starts to do things I see as problematic, obviously I'd be unhappy and say that isn't good. If HSR fucks up again, who cares? You can call it hypocritical, but that's how I view it. Why care about a game I dislike and want to bring up how to make it better and have an issue with it? I only really have an issue when it's a game that I actually enjoy that's, I think, going down the wrong path in certain ways or doing things that I think are not good. No one is completely fair about everything. We all have biases, obviously. Honkai Star Rail's best is so low at this point that even garbage practices can be seen as normal, and the players have normalized and are fine with it. By the way, what a dumb drama in general. Who the hell cares? I can't believe anyone cared about that. I think you understand what I'm trying to say, but this does relate to what's next and what just recently happened, right? Now, relating to the initial topic at hand, I said in my review, and people got so mad, which confused me. I get insulted all the time, but what annoyed me more was that many were trying to convey my review as wrong, or having an agenda against WUA, or that I was like maliciously not paying attention, or not caring, or I rated it lower than it should, or just a lot of things along those lines. That was the real issue that I was having, not people saying like, no, it was good, you're wrong. Because like, whatever. I have no agenda here, by the way. I don't know why people think that. And also, opinions can't even be wrong. They're subjective, realistically. People thinking for some reason I don't like the story for an ulterior motive is kind of absurd. For example, me thinking Rover was a bitch in the story doesn't mean I don't think what they did was correct or it makes sense. I just conveyed what I thought about in the moment after I finished the story, is that I didn't really like how Rover was or carried themselves, or how they basically were in the story, and that they were purposely in that story made to look kind of worse. So after I was annoyed by this, the next day I basically said a super ego sounding statement about how dumb people were over the review, and that I play more, spend more, and I'm going to Kernfrost when their ass isn't. Which, I mean, it's still kind of funny to say, to be honest. But I pretty much wanted to piss people off because I was just so tired of them constantly saying this stuff. But the problem was, and this is definitely my mistake, my bad 100%. I either didn't contextualize it correctly or I missed it completely. I'm not really sure which, because I actually haven't rewatched that time that I saw it. I couldn't find it even. Maybe you can just link it below. And a random cut clip of me trash talking doesn't really help, I suppose, either, right? Now for this, I do apologize, because I essentially said something I didn't mean to say, and it definitely sounded way worse than necessary as well. What I meant, and this is my actual thoughts on it, is that I'm tired of people trying to say I either have an agenda against the game or don't even like it, because I see this a lot. And my response is that I play more, spend more, and I'm going to Kurofest, flying across the whole world, compared to people saying these things about me that I don't even care. And why the fuck would I go through all these things if I didn't like the game at all? Why would I put in a ton of time playing the game and farming and everything, a bunch of money into the game, pulling for characters and other stuff, and then fly across the whole world if I didn't care about the game or had an agenda against it? Wuthering Waves doesn't bring in crazy views and money for me. I don't play games that I don't enjoy. I learned that from Epic 7. I've been through those kinds of days. If I wanted to bootlick, I would be a Genshin millionaire and Paimon would be my best friend. I don't really care if people think I have an ego or whatever. I think you'll find me very realistic and very self-depreciating, if anything, on the regular, but I don't really care to convince anyone. It doesn't really matter if someone thinks that about me. All that really matters is that I'm sorry for what I said. Even a god echo picker can be wrong after all. right? At least sometimes. Also, I have no issue with being criticized, and I don't mean to demean those who actually give valid criticism, but so much of it was just straight up bad actors saying, and it was crazy, "You just don't get it, so you are wrong," or "He doesn't like the game is why he rated it bad," or "This guy must love Hoyoverse because he wanted it to be bad." Those are the real Kurobots, not people who genuinely disagree with how I rate it. Funny how if I rated the game a 9 out of 10 and said good, I doubt anyone would have been unhappy, but a 7 out of 10 in good, well, that's not okay. Ah well, my mistake, I guess. Now, the final subject I want to talk about was something I've said about Wuthering Waves: community, and that I've said that it sucks. I fully stand by this statement, but with one amendment, and before you raise your pitchforks, let me explain why. I've played a lot of different gacha games. Hell, I keep up with like 7 to 8 of them right now because I'm a psycho. But I've never seen a more frustrating community than this one that I want to like, but feels like it just pushes you out. And it's the only reason that I feel this way is because I haven't been in the Genshin community. That's gotta be the most miserable one of all. But why is that? Okay, first of all, what do I mean by Wuthering Waves community? Well, I mean the people who chronically online talking about the game and posting about the game all over that are the rabid defenders and attackers for the game. In short, the schizos. Problem is, the loudest and most prevalent online are often those for many communities. I don't mean the people just playing the game and enjoying it, obviously not. Unfortunately, as any community grows, even if only 0.01% of people are bad eggs, it can end up making a community look foul to outside eyes as they congregate, and since WoW only grows larger, it only got worse. Which leads to the first issue. Well, for one, criticism is not allowed. It even sometimes feels like I'm on Hoyo Labs with how protective people are of the game, and you'd think they birthed it. Shockingly, the Reddit appears to be the most critical when it used to be shill central at the start. Funnily enough, Carl loves feedback and criticism. As a side note, did you know people thought a mail search function was peak quality of life and Genshin defended it saying it was a good patch attacking people? It blew my mind when I saw that. Secondly, many people have a giant chip on their shoulder and everything has to relate to Hoyoverse. If something's good, it's better than Hoyo. If it's bad, at least it's better than Hoyo. If they stepped in shit, at least it was Kuro shit and not Hoyo shit. You'd think they had a nasty divorce with how much they have to talk about, and 90% of the reason I even mentioned Genshin or Hoyo in this entire video is because if you don't hold a knife to Hoyo, it means you're on their side. It's like a gang war over waifus. And if any WoW community members ever do anything wrong or be shitty, people say it's Hoyoverse fans trying to do a psyop to impersonate a Wuthering Waves player to make them look bad. Like, what? Really, we're gonna get the tinfoil hats on now too? Especially in some of these live stream chats, you'll see people say all this like crazy stuff and then people go, well, that's not one of ours. It's actually one of theirs pretending to be one of ours. Like, come on. Funnily enough, I've also seen this from the Hoyoverse community saying the same things, that it's some Kurlbot operative or something. If you don't remove the extremists and acknowledge them, then everyone will view the entire community as them, whether it's true or not. Third, I want you to think about it from an outside perspective. If you looked at the WoW community, the amount of hate towards Hoyo and how rent-free it is basically makes the community, and by proxy the game, look worse to outside viewers. Remember how bad the Undertale community was, or certain anime communities like My Hero Academia, or even stuff like Rick and Morty or K-pop or Boruto? It just makes people not want to associate. That's not to say that's all the community has, but there's definitely a lot. There's definitely more fan art and memes now than there were before, which is great, but maybe 5 months ago, or maybe less, 90% of the talking points I'd see were discussing the game were related to Hoyoverse. There's also no coincidence that the less content a patch has, the more drama, even as I say it right now. And look, I get the rivalry and all that, but the two companies are literally laughing all the way to the bank and hanging out, sharing ideals and meeting with each other, so why is it even like this? Both sides will blame the other. And I guess because I have to say this, or some may see red, yes, the Hoyoverse community is worse from what I've observed, but that doesn't suddenly make WoW's community amazing. The one amendment I'd definitely like to add to my statement that I will say about Wuthering Waves community not being good or being shitty is that it isn't everyone. I think most people already understand that differential. However, if you don't lay it all out there, and even if none of the descriptors apply to people, then they might think it's about them, and that's another mistake I made by making it sound more generalized than I really mean. Yeah, I definitely should be a little bit more specific, but I think most of the time people understand when you say something along those lines. One final point I'd like to bring up, just because I thought this was one of the most ridiculous at all, and it's kind of comical actually. It's funny that people were saying that I got like tech tone to defend me and I was talking to him about this or something. It's kind of ridiculous, and it's funny especially because he actually came to me off stream before any of this, wondering why people were being such freaks about his rating to the story after he streamed it. He has no intention, by the way, to defend me over something like this dumb gotcha drama, but he was also in the crosshairs for no reason, and just because he really rated the story lower, which leads me to believe that most of the previous things that I addressed don't even really matter to people, and people just care if you don't give a good rating, then they're gonna be mad, which is a little bit lame. Turns out the moment you leave the gotcha sphere, you see how insanely toxic it can be for absolutely no reason, I suppose. Anyways, I just wanted to make this video to essentially talk about everything on my mind relating to the game. Sorry to disappoint you, but I'm gonna still be playing the game every single day. Oh, and this is where you now have to summarize my entire video and give it a rating to prove you paid attention with all the details. You better understand every little point I've made, or your opinion is wrong. Leave your hate-filled comment below, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks a bunch for watching.